Welcome to the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we, a business owner and an artist, discuss the business of art and the art of business. Hey friends, I'm Carl, founder of Epic Made.
And I'm Ross, creative director at Epic Made, and we're the hosts of the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we share our thoughts on creativity, art, and business. Past guests include Marcy Selsberg of Blah Blah Blah, Joe Weaver of OceanT.com, and Rebecca Blake of the Graphic Artists Guild.
We're forever grateful for the supporters of our podcast, and we're always looking for more sponsors. That said, Pixel Retentive is always brought to you by the creative gurus at Epic Made. Epic Made is a team of artists and strategists with a mastery of visual storytelling. Our studio makes unforgettable animation and graphic illustration infused with ideas that put money in your pocket. We best serve marketers and brands seeking to engage nerdy audiences, and some of our favorite clients include Nickelodeon, WWE, and Sci-Fi. Visit getepicmade.com and let's collaborate on your next creative campaign.
And with us today, we have Dave Waite. Waite, correct?
Waite, yes.
Nice. Wait for it. Dave runs Zookeeper, an animation production and branding company that brings characters to life using emerging technologies for clients like Nike, Adobe, ABC, NBC Universal, Fox Sports, Team Coco, and Google. Zookeeper also develops their own animated IP for original shows, which I'd love to talk about, by the way. A Northwestern graduate, Dave previously worked at ESPN and Nike himself. Welcome, Dave.
Great to be on, guys. Good to see you, Carl.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you getting out here with us. So before we jump into the meat of today's episode, we like to ask our guests like little quick questions so we can get to know you a little better. So tell us how long you've been in your industry and the project you are most proud of.
Oh, geez.
Sorry.
Last month marked our 25th year of being in business. So started this February of 99. Previous to that, I worked at ESPN in Bristol, Connecticut on Sports Center, NHL Tonight, and NFL Primetime. Way back in the day, that was my first job out of school. And then I worked also as a creative writer at Nike for a couple of years in the late 90s on Nike Town openings all over the world when we're opening new stores and putting new content into old ones. Got to be involved with store openings in Berlin and London, Honolulu, Miami, and so it was a lot of fun. And it was a great experience to get into the industry and really learn the right way to do design and think about things in the design world. And we just had an absolutely fantastic team out there. So it's a very interesting time.
Dude, it sounds like it's been a fun journey so far.
Yeah, so far. Carl, what was your second question there? What was the most?
What are you most proud of? Is there a particular project that stands out? Just like, man, this one gave me the feels, or this one had this amazing impact, or, you know.
I mean, we've definitely had some challenging projects over the years, some really successful projects. I would say the one that really stands out in terms of the timeline that we're on, the amount of content we had to create, was probably our animation for Team Coco, which was back in, I think that was fall of 2017. We had to produce almost, I think, 26 minutes of animated content. We were animating I think we did 10 or 12 different stand-up comedians, where they would do their 2 to 3 to 4 minute bit. And then we went in there and animated all of their stories behind it. So that was super duper fun.
Awesome.
Isaac, he's our lead illustrator and animator. We've been working together since 2006, and he just really wanted to do most of the art for that. And we had other people on the team come in and do a great job as well. And he worked day to night on that. We had, I think, 3 or 4 months to bring that all together with a team of, I think we only had 3 or 4 of us on the project in total. So there's a lot of heavy lifting, and just the client being really happy with that at the end, and that being the first ever animated show on Snapchat. At the time, it was a great experience.
Dude, sounds awesome. And stressful. and like some shit Ross would do where it's like, I really want to do this one. It's like, bro, like what?
One of the really interesting parts of that was, there's some fantastic talent back when Team Coco was still doing their shows all the time. That's obviously Conan O'Brien. And we worked with JP Buck just in the initial storyboarding phase. And JP Buck, if you tell anyone in the comedy space in LA that JP, they're like, oh my goodness, can you give him my reel? Because he is like the guy that he would select the people that would go on the show. So
yeah,
just royalty, but just kind of being in the meeting with him and one or two of our storyboard artists and just seeing their approach to try to get multiple jokes into every bit. It's not just the easy hit, but there's also another layer underneath that of humor that they try to get in there.
The best.
It's a great way to think, not just about comedy, but just animation and visual arts in general.
Right.
There's always more you can add in there. There's more Easter eggs you can do, and we love putting in these Easter eggs. So that was just right up our alley.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd never actually heard of Team Coco, but I know Conan O'Brien, and he's actually I don't know him personally. I know of him, right? So I don't know how I didn't know of this brand. I'm on the website now, but he's actually an amazing artist, and he actually put out some really cool stuff when the first NFT craze hit, and people were really surprised at what the actual art that he could personally do. So that was pretty cool. So
well, they're really smart over there too. Back in the day when they're going full swing, is they try to monetize many different income streams, and they really like to try things, which I thought was really cool. They'll try those NFTs. They'll, they had a ton of different initiatives.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, and so with 25 years in the animation industry, and we're closing in on that to some degree, right? 16, something like that.
Yeah, well, I started this in 2006. When I brought you in 14 or something, 12,
13.
Okay, 20.
Yep, right in the middle.
Yeah, and I let me just jump in there, guys, real quick. We didn't really start animating. And really, that was motion graphics till about back in 2012 when we were referred. This was back when I was in LA. We were referred on by a mutual connection to somebody at NBC, and they were trying to get. You remember the TV show The Revolution on NBC? Anyway, that was back when they would split the seasons between two halves, kind of that fall and the winter.
Mm-hmm.
But there was this in December, early January, there'd be a 4 or 5 week gap, which they would try to fill. There wouldn't be any shows on, but they're trying to bridge that gap. So our connection at NBC actually saw some sprites moving on our website and just brought us in. They knew that we could illustrate, but they're like, hey, can you do kind of motion graphics for these webisodes to kind of 4 or 5 of these episodes to keep us going between seasons? And I just immediately said, yes, of course we can. And I didn't have a motion designer at that point. And we talked our ways into it. NBC was really happy with the finished product. They brought us back for, I think, 4 or 5 more of those, which was very cool of our contacts there. But yeah, so that was kind of, before that we had done, I have my backgrounds in copywriting and branding. So that was really the first time we started doing the motion graphics. And then technology really helped us, I think 2016, when TBS came in and talked to us about doing some animated shorts. And that was technically the first animation when we started doing lip syncing and some things like that. So technology's really helped us to jump this and really helped us get to a level up and get to a much better place where we're now, fully animated here in 2024. But yeah, tell me more about you guys and your experience in animation.
And actually that kind of brings us into what we want to talk about today, which is more or less just the war stories of being in the animation industry, just kind of where we've been and also where it's headed with, AI and so on.
Technology in general. Yeah.
And, Web3. And we always end up in that corner of technology nowadays in these conversations. So, yeah, I mean, we've been, we actually started, like I said, Carl started the business as Creative Art and Design Studios
Like 2006. It's just,
Yeah.
I got people to hire me to do my schoolwork. So I was literally paying for my classes by having clients, oh, I need to make a website. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna make a website for this guy for his restaurant. And then it just kind of spun into this whole thing. So similar background in terms, we didn't do animation at all back then. I had no animation skill at all.
Yeah. And I joined, so I have a bachelor's degree in media art and animation and illustration, like digital painting. And so I joined Carl in 2013 as just like an artist just to expand his capabilities into illustration and animation. And we've been working together ever since, and now I run his whole art department. But there was a point somewhere in like 2015 or 2016 where we'd gotten this illustration project for a card game, and we just decided we had so much fun with it. We decided that we were going to pivot the entire business in that direction, not just offering illustration and animation as a supplementary sort of service to like websites and graphic design and so on, but to actually have that be sort of the core offer and core identity to the business. And that's where Epic Made kind of came in. The whole company rebranded, and now it's sort of a maximalist, fantasy heavy brand that we're actually looking into elevating again in the very near future.
Yep.
Very cool. I love the way you guys have that real narrow focus, and I think that's a terrific way to really get some traction and grow your business in a very focused way.
Yeah. Good, Rob.
I'm huge into sort of the theory of storytelling and the principles behind that. And one of the things that we really try to do is make sure that the stories that we're telling visually, they're not just rooted in entertainment, but they're rooted in actual function and form, and they actually do what the client needs them to do. And I think that that's a big misstep in a lot of studios, where they're asked to do something that's sort of pretty, but it ultimately loses its function or it loses its effectiveness along the way. I think only the best studios out there can maintain both throughout the process. I mean, it sounds like you guys do the same thing, where you're actually focused on what the experience is throughout, like you were saying, with Easter eggs or having layers on layers of storytelling or visual intrigue. Like that stuff is super important.
Yeah, and I think it's really important too. You'll have some clients that are in high level marketing positions, but yet they'll still try to take some of the tools out of your hands, and they'll insist on writing a script or saying, "Hey, it really needs to be this way," instead of like really giving people like you or me the freedom and latitude to like, "Hey, here's the problem we're trying to solve. What can you imagine that takes us there?" That would be a much better approach to things. And that we have one client that we've been working with that would be, if I could get into their head, that would be definitely one thing that I would direct their way, and they're having a lot of success now, but they'd have even more.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. It's like, man, and this is a huge theme with any creatives that we talk to. Is like, if the clients really just got out of the way, like, hey, this is the problem, now solve it, and like I'm hiring you because you're the expert, right? That's when like the real magic happens, right? When you can really invest all of your best knowledge into solving their problem from a totally different perspective, that they don't have the skills and experience that we have from our position, right? That's why they hired us. So we've seen that go really well. Like recently we did a project, like blew up. Like it was literally the rates on it were insane. It was like 8% click-through rate, like crazy, which is like 8 times the industry average. But the client was just like, hey, look, we really Ross can speak more to the actual process because he ran the project, but like the best ideas won and not anybody's agenda, right? Like, here's the objective. Let's come up with the best way to do that. So
I think that's where firms like yours or ours can really thrive too, because I think if you have a bigger studio, they come in or bigger design agency, they'll come in and they'll like want to run an elaborate strategy session that takes them 6 months to go through, et cetera, like where firms our size can come in and move extremely rapidly to create some really magical solutions and magical creative work.
I do want to place a little bit of a caveat, ironically, on that whole client get out of the way thing, because I do think that there are, like, creativity at its core is problem solving, but if you don't have the problem properly articulated, like if it's just, hey, we, we're our marketing sucks, help, that's not enough. You need walls and constraints to help form whatever it is you're doing. Otherwise, someone who's as creative as either of our studios will have too much room to play, right? And you end up getting nothing done for a different reason,
right?
Which is basically just there's too many options. Like you could basically go anywhere. You have to start manually creating walls for the team where, like, okay, well, what does the client's brand look like? Like where that's a wall, what do we know their core message is? Well, that's a wall, and we can't stray too far past those, and so on and so forth. Like, so there's an amount of input from a client that I think is ideal. I don't think just free reign works as well for me as it might for Carl, who has a much more laissez-faire attitude about creativity in general. But for me, who's I'm rooted in practicality when it comes to art and production when it comes to art. Like even my own personal stuff, I write my own stories and things like that. They're incredibly well plotted and planned out. I like having more client constraints. I don't like client interference. I think that's the biggest.
That's different.
Yeah, it's guide rail to like, hey, so we gotta make a really fancy thing that goes in this box, right? Like it has to go in this box, right? So that makes sense. And I think optimally you have clients. I mean, some of the best clients we've worked with, say like a Nike or somebody like that you come in and you inherently know where the guidelines are anyway, because they've done a great job developing and strategizing their brand over the years. With very daring, innovative, creative. I think having boundaries in place, though, notably deadlines. I have one artist, we've been working together a long time. He always goes to me, I just wish we had a few more weeks to work on that project. And I'm just like, if we had more time to work on this, it might never get done because, perfection is the adversary of progress, right? So, So yeah, it's that. I think, Ross, that's a great point. It is good to have some sort of parameters, to have some sort of deadlines. I think those are all good things to have going on too.
Yeah, it's funny. There's I've run into several scenarios where a client has just kind of left things relatively open-ended. Like, of course, there's the favorite, like, we just need it done whenever, as soon as humanly possible. But like a client might give, like, oh yeah, I don't need this until the summer. You guys have as long as you absolutely need to work on it, right? And I'll actually have some members of my team like beg me for a deadline because it allows them to stop working on it in their head by a certain point, right? Like it allows them to stop fiddling with it and stop kind of trying to perfect it. And so I definitely think that that's super, super important. I think as creatives, we're always trying to figure out a new way to rotate the Rubik's Cube so that it solves the problem. And even after you've solved it, there's a better way to solve it in your head. And so you keep trying to kind of find the most optimal way to do it. And I definitely agree that there's a point where I think, I don't remember who said it, where it's the last 20% of work put into a creative endeavor is 80% of its impression, where it's like basically you could keep toiling with the idea and you can do you could spend years like working out a plan and like you said, 6 months on a creative session to, work out this grandiose strategy. But like the last 20% of effort, like the polish and the final coats and all that stuff, like that's 80% of the inevitable impression of someone who's looking at it on social media or sees it on TV for a commercial, or at least from a production standpoint.
And I think
getting it done.
I think the other thing too, from a kind of production standpoint too, you have to have deadlines, otherwise you're not going to have profitability.
Oh yeah, from a business standpoint for sure.
And we're creatives. We never like to talk about business, but profitability is also a good thing as well.
I think that's somewhat of a unicorn trait that Carl and I have, where that's part of the reason why we started the podcast in the first place, is because obviously, that is a big thing where creatives don't like talking about business. They don't like seeing their job as having to make money, right? Like most of them would rather just not have that pressure on whatever it is they decided to do with their lives, whether that's illustrate or animate or write or what have you.
And then putting a price on your passion, right? Like just whether that's hourly or project based, it's hard for a lot of people.
But I think it's super important to talk about because so few people are willing to accept that truth. And also, there's nothing wrong with keeping it separate, right? Where you get a job that's not your creative passion, so that you don't put a price tag on it, right? And so you have that sort of hobby sacred for you. You write your book at your own pace.
Sure, but I think that your free space in your mind.
Yeah, but I think most people confuse that when they decide to make their passion their job. They think that that it'll still stay sacred and it'll still stay, this passion, this burning desire that they have. And when you attach money and deadlines and all sorts of stuff to it, it does take a certain amount of awareness to keep it alive afterward. I think if you're blindsided by it,
I think if you kind of are a self-employed creative, and I think that's pretty much going to go for all creatives these days, because everyone's going to be, even if they're working full-time for a corporation, they're still going to have still most likely going to have a side hustle or going to be working for themselves at some point in time. You kind of have to let the creativity kind of take over and consume you at certain points in your career.
Yep.
And sure, it's great to have boundaries and stuff, but it's really a wonderful thing when we can sit here and focus on a career that revolves around creativity.
Yeah.
Rather than sitting here with a calculator adding up other people's taxes. That doesn't sound very fun to me.
And some people that like gets them out of bed in the morning, they're like, oh my God, my CPA, her whole business is like that, right? Where they're just, everyone there loves to crunch some numbers and come up with some figure at the end. It's like this gratifying moment for them, probably not too dissimilar from when we finish a beautiful piece of art that we love, right? But yeah, no, that doesn't.
I think that's really I think where creators are really struggling right now over the last year or so, as we're seeing the kind of advent of AI come into the marketplace. You see people in your LinkedIn feed kind of fearing it. What's it going to entail? And I think there's something kind of almost anti-human about some of this AI, where let me kind of explain that. I think as humans, we're all kind of magical beings. And if we can kind of tap into our creativity, tap into some of these magical powers, it's a really cool thing. And I think that's one of the issues that you're starting to see with AI now is the output can be rather soulless, and that magic is really missing. And I think AI has some limited rules in what we can do, but I think for the sitting here and asking AI to be, a content creating machine, I don't think that's a good idea by marketers.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I think it's great. I love it. I hope they keep it up, because it's just going to make guys like us way more valuable, right? That content is going to all start looking the same. You've got like people prompting, all right, it's an AI is going to create your whole campaign, it's going to write all your copy, it's going to post the image for you that it created an AI, and then all the people that interact on it are going to click the little generate reply with AI button, and it's just going to be computers talking to computers, and nobody's fucking interacting. It's like it's not even real. It's all just bullshit vanity metrics, and that's going to allow people like us to actually know how to customize and create unique things to do what we do best, right? We're innovative thinkers, we have innovative ideas, and then we execute those in innovative ways. But I love using AI. I use it all the time. It's a tool and not the thing, right? Like okay, well, look, I got a hammer, that's great for nails, but like I need to screw this screw in. This hammer's not going to help me with that. So like when I jump into Photoshop, I love generative AI. Like I use it every Sunday when I do my live stream. That's pure creativity for creativity's sake, right? Like Ross fired me from our art team, I don't know, 6 years ago when he's like, look, Carl, if you want to actually make some fucking money, like, I love you. You built this awesome business. It's great. Thanks for bringing me on. Get the fuck out of the way. You're too artsy fartsy. Like, you're not doing, like, because I would just get lost in like the overindulgence of perfection of things, and like
he'd be moving pixels back and forth, like,
like 7 proofs. Like,
I think the kerning looks better with it 3 pixels this way. Like, bro, this was 3 days ago. What are you doing?
Yeah. So, but I needed that creativity back in my life, and so I started live streaming like 2 years ago, and like now every week I make a new piece of art that's literally just art for art's sake, right? So, but I say all that to say, like, I love getting in there and being able to rapidly create something that's in my mind and utilizing some of these tools to make it faster than ever on top of my skills that I already have in Photoshop, which is better than 95% of the world, right? So it's like that kind of stuff there's something cool there that allows, it puts my skills on like another level of like, I can do these things quicker, better, faster than ever, but it doesn't replace my need to be a good artist, right? Like to have the artistic integrity. So I could take something that if somebody else would be soulless and just generative shit, and like actually add character and soul into it because I still have the skills to manually create these things. If that makes sense, I don't know.
Yeah, there's been a lot of hubbub about, Pica.
What's Pica?
Recently, which is like the animation AI generating tool. And obviously Sora a couple weeks ago got a lot of talk. Yeah, Ross, have you seen any, are you working AI in your pipeline at all with animation?
No, right now we are just hands off. We're like, the only time we use AI is just for like ideation and iteration, like not like for actual client deliverables.
Yeah, because there's a lot of discrepancy on whether or not the output is copyrightable and transferable to the client. And so as of right now, the answer to that question is no, it's not at all. And so because it's not regardless of sort of how specific you make the prompt, it's not considered enough human effort by the Copyright Office to transfer license and have ownership over it. Yeah. So, I mean, there's already people skirting that rule with like Adobe stock allow you to make profit on AI stuff. But generally speaking, like if I pull something off of that and use it and resell it, I'm perfectly allowed to do that. Like I'm legally within my rights to be able to take something generated from Midjourney and sell it in the same way that they are with no repercussion. And I would encourage artists or writers or literally anyone in a creative field to use AI and ChatGPT just so that you can be used to what it looks like and what it sounds like. Because I can, like, there are like legitimate companies that will come to us with copy that I can literally tell was written by ChatGPT. There's a cadence to it. There's like a very specific style of writing that it uses, regardless of how specific you try to get it to not do that. Same thing with Midjourney. Like no matter how pretty it looks, it will always have tells. Wizards of the Coast just recently put out an image for advertising that they swore up, down, left, and right that they didn't use AI for, but it's so blatantly obvious that they did because the clocks are wrong. Like there's, different numbers on a clock. There was like steampunk light bulbs that are just like insane looking inside. Like no,
Did they like hire someone who used AI? Like, oh, we hired this artist, and the artist just prompted the shit.
Yeah. No artist would intentionally make those shapes or what have you. Robert McKee, he wrote a book called Story. It's a super, super influential book, in my opinion. I'd definitely check it out if you haven't already.
Mine in the book, it's right here.
There you go. Story is a metaphor for life, right? And so is one of the quotes in the book early on. And that you can't tell a story with your artwork, which is ultimately the goal of every piece of art, regardless of how subconscious it is. You can't do it with just data. You have to have like an internal purpose, a lens through which you're trying to tell something to somebody. And the thing with AI is that it takes all of the external output of that and amalgamates it into similar exports, but the reason why it looks soulless and as artsy fartsy as it sounds, like that is a metric for art for the most part, is because it's not trying to say anything. It's trying to imitate all of these other pieces of artwork that were trying to say something too subliminal for it to catch on.
Right.
And so that's why we're always going to need actual artists, regardless of whether or not they use this as a tool to, like Carl does, to add to their work. It still needs to have an intentional hand behind it in a way that is more involved than writing a prompt.
And I think humans are super intuitive. They can tell when something is faked or AI, or there's just a feel to it. Look at how quickly people got onto that Kate Middleton photo in the last few days. They're like, oh, something's wrong about this. And big embarrassment when people get caught doing that too.
Yeah.
And it really hurts the brands.
Yeah.
The worst part is they get caught because they've gotten so lazy about it.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be one thing, like there's an illustration that I did of a Berserk fan art that I did where like the castle in the background is AI generated, right? Like I was like, I don't want to draw a fucking castle, but like, I edited it so heavily that, yeah, if you stared at it and zoomed in, you could definitely tell it's AI. I'm not trying to hide it, but it's not the focus of the art. Like it's a piece of a greater whole that I handcrafted. But people who are getting caught and people who end up in the limelight because their fans or their audiences or whoever are pissed off at them, it's because they just hit the play button and it created the whole piece for them, or they just touched it up afterward. And so all of those like weird artifacts and discrepancies and soullessness is still there. It just looks slightly prettier because an artist had their way with the top coat,
Yeah. And we worked on a project a few months ago where a piece of video needed to be extended by like 3 seconds, like a actual video, not an animation.
Right.
And it seemed to like work pretty well for that.
Yeah.
Like it has some like limited uses along those lines. But, I've also seen other client that we've done work for recently where, she had AI write her whole website, which was kind of an advisory on getting clients more dates. And she's like a therapist, but like she's generating all the copy on the website using AI. And it's hilarious because they use the same 3 verbs. It's like elevate and a couple other ones. And it's just like, it's such an obvious tell. It's like, and then they wonder like why they're not connecting with customers. It's like, well,
it's because the AI can't be honest. It has to be algorithmic in the way that it goes about getting its data, because it's just how it works. And the whole of the internet, the vast majority, is dishonest. everybody's wearing masks. And so, of course, the AI feels like that because it's blending all of the data of these people who are wearing masks. And it's the 1% of people who decide to take the mask off and be honest and be genuine and authentic. And, you hear all of these adjectives used in, guru conversations and speeches and stuff all the time about how to get noticed on social media or the internet or whatever. It's the 1% of people who actually successfully do that get really, really successful. And the AI, that's 1% of the AI's data stream. Like it's so little of what it can spit out that of course it gets lost.
Yep.
No, I think those are all great points. And there's we had another client that we did work for recently as well that I think AI is it's really the inputs and where it's drawing things. But this client was saying that one of the things they do is they generate results, AI generated results without bias. And I think that's absolutely impossible to do.
Yeah.
Like that just doesn't exist. And I think you can see that in Google's recent troubles in the last couple of weeks here, where they've done themselves tremendous brand harm by, internal manipulations into, you get unreal generations of art and stuff. And it's not the right way to go about things.
Yeah, they tried to.
It's going to be a weird echo chamber of AI talking to AI in every different format and building on its own bias and its own. And they saw it, and
we just don't want the Whoppers from War Games talking to each other. That would be the best.
Exactly. Good times.
All right, guys. So we are unfortunately coming up on time. I know the conversation's been great, and I'm sure we could continue talking about this for another 45 minutes easily.
Easily.
But since we are nearing the wrap up, we do want to ask you the same question that we ask all of our guests, Dave, which is there anyone or anything in your career that you'd like to shout out to the audience? So that might be a mentor, a valuable resource, a favorite client, someone who the audience might just want to check out.
Oh, that's a great one. I'm going to have two there. Okay. Well, first off, all the great clients we've had over the years, they've been awesome. A lot of them have came in as friends and left as even better friends, or we didn't know them very well at the start. They turned out to be friends. That's been awesome. I've been working with Isaac Hulk since 2006. A lot of the art that you see on our site is by his hand. And it's been really awesome working with him all these years, watching him develop and just kind of going along that creative path with him, which has been really terrific. And I'd also like to remember somebody who's not here with us anymore. About a year and a half ago, my business consultant for quite a number of years, Keir McLaren, died suddenly, passed away. And I still think of him every week, all of his different sayings and advice. And sometimes he would tell me things or ask me things, and it would literally take years for that to kind of sink in and be like, oh, okay, that's what Keir was getting at here. You can go and watch Keir on The Future with Chris Do. Keir has several videos that Chris filmed of him. And I did that recently on his 1-year anniversary pass, and I kind of went back and watched all those videos. And I think for creatives out there, I think that a lot of them have maybe younger creatives that have gone through the pandemic. I think it's been very difficult on those, those, I like to call them kids because I'm old, but who've kind of come out of art school, the pandemic hit. I think it's so important to find those mentors in your life. For those people that truly care about your creative path and your journey and where you're trying to go. You won't run into that many of those. So I think it's always a great thing when one is placed in front of our path and we decide to walk down that path.
Absolutely. And what was their name? How do you spell it?
That's Keir McLaren. It's Keir and then McLaren. And that's on Christo's The Future
Yeah, Chris is
They've got an incredible video archive out there for sure. A lot of people know about it.
awesome.
Absolutely.
And sorry for your loss, friend. I know that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it sounds like Kier's awesome, and Isaac was the other person you mentioned, right?
Yeah, Isaac Hulk. Yeah. We're still working together today. He hasn't gotten sick of me yet, so I'm pretty happy about that.
It's always great.
On Zookeeper.com, which, like you said, is largely Isaac's, is fantastic. It's really good.
Yeah, it's our work. We bring it together, a team. We've got a lot of fantastic people we work with. But Isaac's been here through the years, and he's been terrific.
Awesome, man. That's great stuff. Cool. Big thank you to Darby who connected us. He's with the Agency Mastery 360. I think he talked to you just probably about joining their mastermind, and then was like, "Hey, you got to talk to Carl."
Yeah, he dropped your name, Carl. Yeah, that's what kind of put us together. Darby's awesome, and it's good to I think it's so important to keep learning and to keep no matter how many years you've been in this game, it's good to keep learning and keep trying to figure out new ways of doing things, because everything below, all the ground beneath our feet right now is shifting. So it's always good to, I think Darby is the way to put it. Like, we all drift a little bit. So
yeah.
It's always good to be aware of that. Jason Swank's course has been interesting as well.
Jason's got some great, valuable information that's literally put hundreds of thousands of dollars in our bank account. So, just the mindset stuff there is just absolutely crucial to scaling any sort of agency approach. So
we have been talking with Dave Waite, who is the founder of Zookeeper. You can check out their website at zookeeper.com. Like I said, their work is awesome. But if listeners want to follow up with you directly, Dave, where should they go? They want to speak with you directly.
Oh, yeah. Just go to zookeeper.com. Dave is zookeeper.com. Our hotline phone number is on there as well.
Heck yeah.
Friendly animators standing by.
Love it.
All right, Dave. Thanks so much for being on the show. And
great to see you guys. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
We really hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe to join us on our next journey through the world of art and business on the Pixel Retentive Podcast.